Imagine you're on the verge of a significant decision, a life choice that seems simple, obvious, yet an inexplicable, paralyzing stupor suddenly rises within you. An invisible hand, like shackles, grips your throat, making it impossible to breathe. Or perhaps you notice the same irritation like a sharp splinter flaring up repeatedly in response to someone's words, actions, or persistent mannerisms. This isn't just a fleeting emotion or a random mood swing. It's a pulse, a calling, a vibration emanating from the deepest, most ancient depths of your being, from those corners you rarely dare to explore. We as humans tend to label these inner manifestations, be it sudden, uncontrollable anger, an inexplicable, irrational aversion to certain traits in others, or that paralyzing fear that binds you at the most inconvenient moment, as enemies. We see them as weaknesses, flaws, things that demand immediate suppression, eradication, expulsion from our consciousness. We strive to get rid of them at any cost, locking them away with 1,000 keys, like dangerous criminals in the darkest cell of our psyche. But what if this dichotomy, light and shadow, good and evil, strength and weakness, is merely a deeply ingrained illusion imposed on us from the outside? What if, at the very heart of your rage, your disgust, your shame, your chronic insecurity, lies not just a flaw or a weakness, but an unrevealed, wild, untamed, primal power, a power that you once hastily or perhaps forcibly, under pressure from circumstances or others' expectations, exiled from your consciousness because you were told it was dangerous, unacceptable, not right, wrong. Allow yourself for a moment to discard conventional logic and social labels. What if what you so vehemently deny in yourself or so irreconcilably condemn in others is actually not just a mirror, but a fragment of your own once rejected true essence? This inner saboteur, this uncontrollable anger, this paralyzing stupor, they are not merely chaotic, meaningless manifestations. They are a rebellion, an echo from the depths, the voice of someone you once, perhaps in childhood, perhaps under the influence of trauma or strict upbringing, locked away in the dungeon of your soul. Your inner exile is not an enemy, not a villain, but a forgotten, betrayed ally whose inconvenient truth tries to break through layers of self-deception and fear, through years of suppression and self-denial. It knocks at your door not to harm you, but to be heard, to return a lost part of your wholeness. It is at this cutting edge of discomfort, on this fragile, vibrating boundary between the conscious and the unconscious, between who you believe yourself to be and who you truly are, that our journey begins. This is not just discomfort. It is a beacon pointing the way to hidden resources. It is an invitation to a deep, healing dialogue with that part of you that was sacrificed for the sake of conforming to social norms, for the illusion of security, for a false sense of completeness. Ask yourself a question that might seem unusual, even slightly frightening. At what exact moment in your life did you first feel that a part of you, the part that strives for leadership, or the part that craves recognition, or the part that dares to be vulnerable, or the part capable of healthy, constructive aggression, or the part that allows itself to make mistakes and learn, had to be hidden, suppressed, concealed from the world and from yourself? When and why did you pass judgment on this part of yourself, sending it into inner exile, depriving it of its right to exist in your consciousness? This ambivalence, this unbearable contradiction between who you are and who you feel you should be, is not a curse but a cradle for the deepest understanding. True, authentic integration begins not with destroying the bad, not with trying to erase the uncomfortable from memory, but with daring to look at it without judgment, with a willingness to hear its story, its message. We've discussed how echoes, discomfort, calls, sometimes even screams from suppressed parts resonate from the depths of our being. But where do these parts come from? How does this inner shadow, this exile we mentioned, even form? Our self is not a monolith, not an unchanging figure carved from stone. It's more like a garden where from early childhood, under the influence of external voices, parents, teachers, society as a whole, we begin to distinguish which flowers are good and which are weeds, which qualities in us are acceptable and which must be uprooted or at least hidden away from prying. Eyes behind a thick veil of shame and guilt. This process is not a conscious choice, but rather an unconscious act of self-preservation, a delicate dance between the desire for love and the need to adapt. A child learns to survive, to be loved, to fit within boundaries that sometimes seem like unshakable laws of the universe. And if to earn approval, one must suppress healthy aggression, transforming it into chronic passivity, or hide fervent ambitions to avoid appearing presumptuous. They will do so without batting an eye, for the need for acceptance is boundless. If vulnerability was met with pain, ridicule, or complete indifference, it will be sealed deep inside, beneath a layer of impenetrable defense mechanisms, transforming into armor as reliable as it is heavy. If the right to make mistakes was not recognized, and any inaccuracy was punished with judgment or disappointment, the pursuit of perfection can become not a source of inspiration, but a paralyzing fear of action, forever stifling initiative. Thus our shadow is formed, not a malevolent enemy, but rather a treasury of rejected, yet often vital qualities that were exiled from consciousness because at some point they seemed dangerous, shameful, or unacceptable to the external environment. And here arises a key poignant question that I invite you to ask yourself, perhaps for the first time in such an open manner. At what exact moment in your life, at what age, under the influence of whose words or what event, did you learn that qualities essential for the full realization of your potential, for building genuine, deep relationships, for boldly moving forward toward your dreams, such as healthy ambition, capable of moving mountains, the ability to assert your boundaries, demonstrating that very healthy aggression, the right to make mistakes without which there is no growth or genuine creativity, or deep vulnerability, allowing you to be truly close and open, were declared bad, shameful, or dangerous. Whose voice resonated then? What event forced you to hide these facets of yourself in a dark corner of your soul where, like caged beasts, they continue to languish, awaiting liberation? These are not merely abstract concepts or psychological constructs. They are living, pulsating energies that have been confined in the prison of self-limitation and others' expectations. And as long as they remain there in the shackles of suppression, they cannot serve you. They cannot be integrated into your wholeness, into the true power of yourself. Instead, they manifest through the very uncomfortable sensations we discussed earlier, trying to break through the wall of oblivion, demanding attention. Understanding this moment of exile is the first ray of light penetrating the depths of the shadow, the first step toward awareness. It is the beginning of the path to accepting that these rejected aspects are not your personal anomaly or weakness, but part of a universal human experience, inevitably shaped by interaction with the world and its sometimes harsh, sometimes unconscious expectations. And this is just one side of the coin, one facet of the larger canvas on which we project our inner worlds. We've spoken of those inner exiles, of the uncomfortable manifestations that knock at our consciousness, demanding attention. Remember, this is not your personal drama, not a unique flaw, but part of the universal human experience. The mechanism of the shadow and projection is an ancient dance of the psyche, its attempt to maintain balance, albeit sometimes painfully. What we so vehemently reject externally, what causes us irrational irritation or contempt for others, is most often merely an echo of what we once exiled from our own inner world. We look into the mirror of the world, unaware that we see not a stranger, but only a reflection of our own suppressed aspects. Imagine a tribe where every quality, every emotion had its place, its function, its ritual of recognition. But at some point, under the pressure of external voices, parents, society, culture, we ourselves became those who exiled part of our own tribesmen, our own aspects beyond the conscious circle. We created our inner diaspora, our shadows living in exile, deprived of voice and recognition. This is not a metaphor for exile from the tribe of the outer world. It is an act of self-exile where the integrity of one's own self disintegrates for the sake of perceived safety or acceptance. And these exiles do not disappear. They accumulate energy like an unpaid bill that doesn't just lie dormant, but grows, multiplies, and eventually demands attention with increasing, relentless force. This is the energy of the suppressed, the energy of the unintegrated, which breaks into our lives through irrational outbursts of anger, inexplicable anxiety, chronic fatigue, or sudden, uncontrollable reactions. It's not just a debt. It's an active, living force demanding its share of existence. In ancient Greek mythology, there were the Erinyes, or Furies, goddesses of vengeance, the embodiment of the relentless law of retribution. They pursued those who committed crimes, especially against family, and had not been punished for them, demanding the restoration of violated balance. Our inner furies are those parts of us that were unjustly rejected, whose rights to existence were violated. They will not rest until justice, or rather wholeness, is restored. They are the tireless agents of our own subconscious, demanding that we acknowledge and integrate what was exiled, what we once deemed unworthy or dangerous. This inner persecutor is not an enemy, but a beacon pointing to forgotten treasures. This mechanism of projection where our inner movie unfolds on the external screen is particularly evident in our reactions to other people. Consider what types of personalities, what qualities in them provoke your strongest, almost irrational aversion, contempt, or indignation. Perhaps there lies the key to understanding what you once failed to accept within yourself. If we look into the mirror of the world through the prism of our inner state, the brightest, most searing reflections are found in those who evoke irrational aversion in us. This is not mere dislike, not ordinary disagreement. It is a deep, often inexplicable feeling of contempt, burning irritation, or even hatred, which, like an internal fire, consumes us when we encounter certain types of behavior or personalities. It is here in this emotional response that one of the most direct paths to understanding our shadow lies. Our psyche, striving for wholeness but unable to directly integrate rejected qualities, projects them onto others. We see in them what we cannot accept in ourselves, turning them into living symbols of our own exiled aspects. Which archetypal figures most often become carriers of this negative projection? Have you met those whose presence seems to automatically fill all space? Those who, with unceremonious ease, assert their rights, ambitions, achievements without feigning modesty? Those who seem to carry an invisible shield, deflecting any attempts to diminish their significance? They might be called the unbridled, self-proclaimed monarchs of their microcosm. Their self-confidence, their assertiveness, their clear superiority over accepted norms of modesty can evoke a burning sense of injustice, indignation, and sometimes even humiliation in you. Imagine a meeting. A person, let's call him Mark, has just presented a project that was, in essence, the result of collective work. But in his words, in his posture, in every gesture, a solitary victory was evident. He mentioned no one from the team, claiming every drop of success for himself. And there you sit, feeling something sharp boiling inside, an almost physical pain from the injustice, from this brazen audacity. Why does his self-confidence hurt so much? Why does his egocentrism cause not just annoyance, but burning contempt, as if he has trespassed on something sacred within you? It is at this moment, when his image becomes unbearable, that you touch your shadow. Or perhaps your shadow resonates with those who seem stuck in an eternal whirlpool of suffering, the chronic victims of circumstance, whose speech is always full of complaints, whose existence seems a continuous string of failures for which they never take responsibility. Their helplessness, their passive waiting for someone else's salvation, can cause unbearable irritation, a desire to shake them, to shout, "Do something." You see their weakness, their inability to act, and this causes not sympathy, but disgust. And what about those who intentionally break rules, shatter molds, challenge authority? The untamed rebels, whose directness seems rude, whose disregard for norms evokes righteous anger. Their refusal to fit in, their defiant disagreement can seem like pure chaos, prompting a desire to immediately restore order, to suppress this indecency. They seem destructive, unruly, irrational to you, and their freedom, their audacity, their ability to go against the current evokes deep, sometimes uncontrollable indignation. These images, these demons of our external world, are not random figures, but precise pointers to those aspects of our own soul that have been exiled to hidden corners. Each of them is not merely a source of discomfort, but an encrypted message, a key to the power that awaits its liberation up. We've spoken of beacons, of those distorted reflections that appear externally, pointing to the exiled aspects of our soul. But what if we look deeper? What if behind every demon that causes irrational aversion in us, there lies not a vice, but a primal, powerful force that we once rejected, exiled to the dark corners of our inner world? Consider the unbridled, self-proclaimed monarchs, those whose arrogance and lust for power evoke deep contempt in you. Their ambitions seem boundless, their ego inflated to the heavens. But what if this projection is merely a distorted mirror of your own inner sovereign? That part of you that knows its worth is capable of leading, making decisions, and taking responsibility for its life. Perhaps long ago, your natural drive for leadership, for asserting your will, or even for simple self-affirmation was suppressed, ridiculed, or punished, and then striving to be good, modest, not a show-off, you forbade yourself not pride, but the right to healthy ambition, to self-respect, to asserting your position in the world. You exiled into the shadow your ability to be a visionary who isn't afraid to declare their ideas and lead, even if it requires courage and audacity. Or take the chronic victims of circumstance, those who irritate you with their passivity, their constant complaining, and their inability to take life into their own hands. In them you see weakness, indecision, a refusal to act. But isn't this the shadow of your own inner doer? That part which possesses inexhaustible energy, the capacity for action, for overcoming difficulties, for actively shaping your own reality. Perhaps in childhood you were taught to be submissive, not to argue, not to show initiative, otherwise you faced judgment or punishment. And then striving to avoid conflicts, you forbade yourself not only rebellion, but also the right to active self-expression, to asserting your boundaries, to independently solving problems, to the ability to refuse the role of a helpless spectator in your own life. You exiled into the shadow your inner strength, your capacity for action, which could transform your reality. And what about the untamed rebels, those who seem destructive, chaotic, disrespectful of rules and authority? Their audacity and desire to break conventions can cause deep aversion, but perhaps this is merely a grotesque reflection of your inner dissident, that part which yearns for authenticity, freedom of expression, the ability to question established norms and seek its own unique truth. Likely, in your history, there were moments when your disagreement, your originality, or simply the desire to be yourself met a wall of misunderstanding, criticism, or rejection, and then striving to be accepted, convenient, non-confrontational, you forbade yourself not only recklessness, but also the right to authenticity, to freedom of thought, to the creative destruction of the old for the new, to the courage to be a nonconformist. You exiled into the shadow your authenticity, your capacity for creative freedom, which could open new horizons. Thus, each of these demons is not an enemy, but a distorted messenger. It points to a colossal resource, a vitally important ability or right that you once removed from yourself, deeming it dangerous or unacceptable. These are not merely vices, but suppressed aspects of our strength, which once exiled do not disappear, but begin to manifest in grotesque, uncontrollable forms, causing suffering to ourselves and those around us. And as long as we refuse to see them as anything more than flaws, we continue to make decisions driven by the fear of becoming like those we so vehemently condemn. We've talked about inner exiles, about those primal forces driven deep within for the sake of conforming to the external world. But suppression is not oblivion. It's merely a postponement, an accumulation of energy that will inevitably manifest, often in the most undesirable ways, sabotaging our pursuit of wholeness and genuine flourishing. Consider the realm of your personal and professional fulfillment. How many times have you found yourself on the brink of a breakthrough only to retreat as if an invisible hand held you back? How many opportunities for growth, for authentic self-expression have been missed due to inner resistance? This is no accident. It is the voice of your unaccepted shadow, a whisper of fear that has become a scream of self-sabotage. Recall those we called unbridled self self-proclaimed monarchs, people whose ambitions seemed excessive, their self-confidence repulsive, their pursuit of power dangerous. Perhaps you internally recoiled at the thought of being like them, and it is this very fear, the fear of becoming just like these demons from our chapter 4, that compels you to make decisions that are not just disadvantageous, but literally cut off paths to your own inner sovereign or inner doer. For example, you avoid taking responsibility for major projects at work because you fear being perceived as overly ambitious or domineering. Deep down, you believe that expressing healthy, focused ambition will make you resemble that monarch whose aggression repelled you. And what happens? You remain in the shadows, your ideas unheard, your potential undeveloped. You consciously decline promotions, opportunities to lead a team, or to assert yourself because you subconsciously associate leadership with traits you find unacceptable. The outcome? Stagnation, dissatisfaction, the feeling that you are not living your own life. This is not just a missed opportunity. It is an active act of self-sabotage dictated by fear. Or take another example concerning our relationships. You may have seen chronic victims of circumstance, those who seem to revel in their helplessness, who constantly awaited external salvation, refusing to take responsibility. This might have caused strong aversion in you, a desire to be their complete opposite. And then your fear of being like a victim, like someone needing support, causes you to erect walls around your vulnerability. You don't ask for help, even when it's vital, because you believe it would make you weak or dependent. You don't share your true feelings with loved ones, fearing you'll appear whiny or incapable. The result? Loneliness, even when surrounded by people, emotional burnout, a feeling of constantly fighting alone because you've suppressed your inner doer who could ask for help and your inner dissident who could allow themselves to be imperfect. You deprive yourself of deep connection because fear projects onto any form of vulnerability. And what about the untamed rebels whose brazen disregard for rules and norms irritated you? If you fear being like them, you may have suppressed your own creative courage, your inner dissident. You choose safe, proven paths, even if they bring you no joy or meaning. You stay in a job that doesn't inspire you because you're afraid to break the system or go against the grain. You suppress your original ideas because they might seem too radical or unaccepted. The outcome? A life devoid of authenticity, a feeling of suffocation, constant internal tension from the need to conform to others' expectations. Perhaps now an objection echoes in your mind, but I don't want to be ruthless, weak, or irresponsible. I don't want to become that demon. And this is a crucial point. Integrating the shadow is not an invitation to become a caricature of what you reject. It is not capitulation to negative manifestations. It is a process of consciously reclaiming the energy of these qualities. Healthy ambition is not ruthlessness, but the ability to set and achieve goals. Healthy vulnerability is not helplessness, but the strength of openness and the capacity for deep connections. Healthy authenticity is not destructive rebellion, but the creative expression of your uniqueness. Suppressing the shadow doesn't eliminate it. It merely deprives us of the ability to manage its energy. We don't want you to become the monarch in its worst manifestation, but we want you to reclaim your right to ambition, to leadership, to the ability to assert your boundaries. We don't want you to become a victim, but we want you to reclaim your right to vulnerability, to ask for help, to accept support. We don't want you you to become a rebel for rebellion's sake, but we want you to reclaim your right to authenticity, to creative self-expression, to reject what doesn't serve you. Integration isn't about accepting the destructive. It's about transforming the suppressed into a resource. It's about turning what you considered your weakness into a source of strength and freedom of choice. This is the first step to stop being a hostage to inner fears and start acting from a state of wholeness. But what if the shadow manifests not only through aversion, but also through admiration? What if the qualities we so highly value in others are, in fact, our own, yet also exiled aspects? We have already discussed the invisible threads that connect us to the rejected aspects of our psyche, to that part of the shadow that manifests through anger, disgust, or stupor. But the landscape of the inner world is far more complex, and there is another facet, another shadow that escapes our attention but no less powerfully shapes our reality. This is the golden shadow, the repository of our unrealized talents, suppressed abilities, and hidden virtues, which instead of recognizing as our own, we project onto those we admire. Imagine every time you bow before someone's greatness, their strength, or their brilliance, you may be unconsciously depriving yourself of your own light, transferring it into another's possession. This phenomenon is not merely innocent admiration. It is a subtle but insidious act of self-sabotage. When we see an ideal in someone, be it in the realm of creativity, leadership, or say the ability for authentic self-expression, we often perceive it as something that belongs exclusively to them. We tell ourselves, he is a true artist. She is a born leader. How I wish I were as free and confident. And at that moment, we alienate these qualities from ourselves, relinquish the right to possess them, turning them into an unattainable ideal and ourselves into eternal followers. Allow me to offer you a deep, almost intimate reflection. Think for a moment. Who is your idol, that beacon whose light you so deeply admire in areas like unwavering determination, risk-taking ability, or mastery in your craft? Who is that person whose qualities inspire awe in you? Now, for the most important part, which of your own dormant talents, unrealized abilities, or unrevealed aspects of your authenticity have you gifted to this person, projecting them outward? What you admire in them, is it actually your own untapped power? Perhaps it's their courage to be vulnerable, their capacity for deep compassion, their indomitable will to achieve a goal, or their unique voice that they aren't afraid to share with the world. As long as these golden sparks of your abilities remain outside of you, shining in someone else's light, you deprive yourself of the opportunity to ignite your own, to become who you are truly meant to be. This is not merely a philosophical discussion. It's a call to action to reclaim what rightfully belongs to you. And it is in this act of reclamation, this bold step of recognizing your own golden gifts, that the next stage of our journey towards integration, towards achieving the wholeness that awaits its manifestation, lies. We've spoken of the whispers of the shadow, of internal exiles, of the golden light we unconsciously scatter across the world by projecting it onto others. But knowledge without action is merely a shadow of knowledge. True transformation begins at the point where understanding flows into practice, where philosophy becomes method and metaphor becomes a bridge to reality. It's time not just to ponder reclaiming fragmented parts of ourselves, but to actively reach out for them. The new philosophy I propose lies in a radical act of self-appropriation. Every person, every quality that evokes an irrationally strong reaction in us, be it anger, envy, admiration, or disgust, carries a message about ourselves. It's not just a reflection. It's a key to the energy we willingly gave away, to the potential we locked up, to the truth we fled from. We are no longer victims of external circumstances or others' manifestations. We are alchemists capable of transmuting external projections into internal strength. Imagine that every powerful emotional experience you have towards another person is not just a feeling, but an energetic cord you've extended from yourself to them. You've connected to them, giving away a part of your charge. It's time to cut these cords and reclaim your energy. This is the first step toward integration, the conscious, intentional reclamation of what has been projected. How do you begin this dialogue? How do you reach out to what you've kept in exile for so long? I propose a simple yet profound ritual, the Unsent Letter to your shadow. This exercise is designed not just to acknowledge, but to feel and reclaim suppressed aspects of yourself. Find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. Take a pen and a blank sheet of paper. Step 1. Identify the projection. Recall a person or quality that has recently evoked a particularly strong, perhaps irrational reaction in you. This could be that unrestrained monarch whose ambition irritates you to no end, or the chronic victim whose passivity evokes your contempt, or conversely, someone you greatly admire whose ease or talent seems unattainable to you. Choose one. Step 2. The addressee, your inner essence. Now, for the most crucial part, you are not writing a letter to this person. You are writing a letter to the part of yourself that is being projected onto them. If you despise someone's self-confidence, you are writing to your inner sovereign, whom you may have once silenced. If you admire someone's creative flair, you are writing to your inner creator, whose wings you may have clipped. Step 3, the letter of recognition and invitation. Begin writing. Address this part of yourself as a living being that has long been in exile. What do you feel towards it? Shame, fear, anger, regret, curiosity? Start with an acknowledgement. My dear name of your inner part, e.g., inner warrior, inner creator, inner child. I see you. I see your strength, vulnerability, light, shadow, and name of person or quality you are projecting onto. I understand that this is you, a part of me that I may have exiled, forgotten, suppressed. Allow the words to flow freely. What do you want to say to this part? Perhaps apologize for turning away from it. Explain why this happened. E.g., I was afraid of being too loud, vulnerable, rejected. Express your desire to reintegrate it. Invite it back. I no longer want to hide from you your strength, your light. I want to bring you home, back into myself. What do I need to do to make you feel safe? What do you want to tell me? What are you afraid of? Don't rush. Write until you feel you've expressed everything that has accumulated. Step 4, the voice of the shadow, the response. Now take another sheet of paper or a different colored pen. For a time, become this part of yourself. Allow it to answer you. What will it say? Perhaps it will express anger or resentment for years of neglect. Perhaps it will be cautious or distrustful, or perhaps it will immediately accept your invitation with joy and relief. Write down its words. This might be unexpected, poignant, even frightening. But remember, this is your own voice, long silenced. When you're finished, read both letters. Feel how the energy that was once scattered externally begins to pulsate within you. These are not just words. This is an act of reunification. You don't become the monarch you hated or the victim you despised. You reclaim the healthy energy behind these projections. Healthy ambition, the capacity for action, authenticity, creative freedom. You reclaim your light, which you so generously gave to others. Remember, this is not a one-time exercise. It's the beginning of a long but infinitely rewarding dialogue. Every time you catch yourself in a strong projection, it's a signal. Another part of you is waiting to come home. This practice is just one path leading to your center, to the restoration of lost wholeness. But beyond these first steps, beyond this inner dialogue, lies something more profound, something that concerns not only our personal world, but also how we interact with the space around us, how we create our reality, and how the world itself begins to respond to our inner transformation.